Hello and welcome to everybody tonight, wherever you're watching from. We're launching Flight 156 from the spaceport here in Kourou in French Guiana on the equatorial east coast of South America.
We're with you live tonight for the launch of NSS 6. The second time this year we launched for New Skies.
In the French commentary box tonight we have Thierry Bouvard and Yves Raymond from Arianespace. And in English it's me, Katie Haswell.
And me, Jean-Michel Dazabo.
And you can also watch us live on the website at www.arianespace.com.
In tonight's program, we'll be finding out about the Ariane 44L on its launch pad being prepared for liftoff. In the news, we'll take a look at our next mission to orbit the scientific probe Rosetta, and we'll also look back at the last Ariane 5 flight just 6 days ago.
We'll also be finding out about our passenger tonight. It's a fixed satellite service craft that was built by Lockheed Martin in California for New Skies. And we'll be hearing from Doug Connolly about the campaign.
During our live program, we'll also be taking a closer look behind the scenes and finding out about the various teams involved in the mission. And we'll be talking to some of the key players who've made tonight's launch possible.
Jean-Michel and I will be with you live from the countdown and the launch through to separation of the satellite. It's now just under 20 minutes to lift off, which is planned for 23:04 GMT. That's about 20:04 here in Kourou. Hello, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. We have a lot of you watching the launch of NSS 6 tonight, so a particularly big hello to you folk in The Hague, Washington, Singapore, Tokyo, London, Johannesburg, Delhi, Jerusalem, Hong Kong and Beijing. Now, it is only 6 days after the launch of Flight 157. It's a difficult pill to swallow, but the teams have worked hard to get us ready for today. Now, we're looking at the Jupiter control room.
Yeah, now we have a view of the Jupiter control center. It's the nerve center for tonight operations. And we are 15 kilometers away from the pad, and it's from here that Katie and myself are speaking to you from the booth overlooking the people you see here.
That's Jean-Yves Le Gall, who's the chief executive of Arianespace. This is a particularly important group of people, the flight directorate.
Yes,
now
indeed.
We're launching the most powerful of the Ariane 4 family today, so let's take a closer look.
Ariane 4 is as tall as a 20-story building, and the fairing is 4 stories.
Indeed, it's a beast. Mass at liftoff is equivalent to 120 school buses, and the thrust around 6 jumbo jets.
The injection orbit is the first leg of the satellite journey to its final orbit.
The spacecraft itself weighs the equivalent to, what, 4 Corvettes or 450 bicycles?
The launch window tonight is nearly 2 hours long. Here in Kourou, we are aiming at a launch 8:04 p.m.
At this point in the countdown, all eyes are on those status panels on the left-hand side of the screen. They're green at the present time, which means we're go for launch. Jean-Michel, run us through what we're looking at.
Yes, in fact, we, as usual, green means go, and what we're looking at are all the systems and all the teams that have to stay ready for the countdown to keep proceeding. And here are the 3 most important: the launcher, its passenger, and the range systems.
Indeed, we have a number of teams working here in Kourou, about 600 people working across the base and indeed across the world. And here we have another view on those status panels.
As well as the ongoing operations.
We're looking here at the status panels in the mission control room. And as I said, we have about 600 people working here at the space base and indeed across the world. The man coordinating those teams is the mission director tonight. It's Philippe Roland.
When a launch campaign starts in Kourou, there are 3 teams working together with people who don't know each other. There is a launch vehicle team, the space center team, and last but not least, the satellite team. These 3 teams need to organize their operations according to the scheduled launch date. The role of the mission director is to coordinate all of these activities and all the while to make sure everything goes smoothly.
And there's Philippe. One of those teams that he was talking about is indeed the range. That's the ensemble of facilities here.
And
at
here
the
we see
spaceport.
Philippe Maubert, the range operations manager of the Guyana Space Center for tonight launch.
He's the one whose voice you'll be hearing. Another one of those teams is concerned with the launcher itself, and they're actually based in launch control. We've just been looking at mission control. They're about 1 kilometre from the launch pad, and launch control is often known affectionately around here as the bunker.
Yeah, and this is a building itself. The job of the people here is very much to do with the launcher itself, and right now they are getting it ready for the liftoff. Launch vehicle manager tonight is Christelle Sturbois.
The COAL is the person in charge of all the operation on the sites, from ground installations to the launcher itself, and that means everything from the erection of the first stage to the final countdown and liftoff. Campaign for Flight 156 started on the 22nd of October with the erection of the first stage, then of the second stage along with the liquid strap-on boosters, and then of the third stage and the vehicle equipment bay. The launcher was then controlled and declared OK for transfer. As Flight 156 was delayed, the campaign was interrupted on the 13th of November. It resumed on the 4th of December at a stage which we call D-7, when the composite was integrated. On the 5th of December, the launcher was transferred to the launch zone, and all preparations for the launch have now been finalized for the final operation and countdown. In conclusion, despite the interruption, this has been a very straightforward Ariane 4 campaign.
And with the launcher and the range, the third major team is, of course, our passenger team tonight, NSS 6, here waiting patiently under the fairing.
Let's take a look back now at the satellite campaign.
The people you can see behind me are the Swiss team from Contraves, who are sticking the NSS 6 logo on the fairing. The NSS 6 satellite was prepared in a very traditional way. It arrived here in our preparation building, where all its technical features were checked after the spacecraft was shipped from the US to French Guiana. The filling operations were carried out with the liquid propellants, hydrazine and NTO, which determined the operational lifetime of the satellite. The spacecraft was then hoisted onto the launcher, and a final check was carried out to make sure everything on board was okay. Finally, all the batteries were charged so that the satellite has enough electricity available to operate its onboard computers at the beginning of its mission.
And there she is in the top of the launch vehicle. Although it's taken a month to prepare here in Kourou, it's taken a couple of years to prepare previously, and indeed those long-term preparations have been your job, haven't they, Jean-Michel?
Yes, indeed. And in fact, the process here is the end of a long process of check and computing, like the flight program that has to be computed a long time before the flight itself, run a lot of tests and analysis to make sure the spacecraft will withstand with no problem the flight environment.
The person in charge of coordinating all those long-term activities is the payload responsible.
I'm program director in the Arianespace commercial directorate, so I'm in charge of various contracts. I'm therefore responsible for all interfaces between the spacecraft of our client, the schedule, the mission, and in fact, the entire preparation of the campaign. I delegate everything linked to the campaign itself to the mission director, who then takes charge of all the operations on a daily basis. However, I remain in charge of the contract until the launch.
You're watching Flight 156 here in Kourou, And we're looking at the NSS people, Jean-Michel.
Yes, our passenger tonight, New Skies people. And here, Doug Conley, the spacecraft mission director, who has overlooked all the operations of his spacecraft during the campaign.
Now, this is the second time this year that New Skies have launched with Arianespace. Everyone here at Arianespace is very, very proud to be working for New Skies, launching for New Skies, and it demonstrates tremendous confidence. Let's take a closer look now at our passenger, NSS 6.
NSS 6 is a powerful fixed satellite services craft. It has been commissioned by New Skies in the Netherlands and built by Lockheed Martin in California. It has 50 Ku band transponders and will beam down over Australia, China, India, as well as North and Southeast Asia. To do this, it will be positioned 95 degrees east over the Indian Ocean.
So we're coming up to 8 minutes to launch. Everything's looking nominal at the present time.
Yes, as you see on the screen, we are all green, we are all go for launch. Everybody is approaching the final pages of the procedures leading to the launch.
It's been a busy year here at Arianespace. This is the 12th launch this year from the Guyana Space Centre, 10 successful launches. Let's take a little look back now at the news.
An independent inquiry has been set up to investigate the Ariane 5 Flight 157, headed by Professor Wolfgang Koschel from the German Space Agency. The inquiry aims are twofold: to confirm that the next Ariane 5 flight planned for the cometary probe Rosetta is not affected, and also to determine the root cause of the failure, so we can resume the Ariane 5 10-ton flights.
A very special payload arrived at the Guyanese Space Centre in September, Rosetta. It's a space probe which the European Space Agency is planning to rendezvous with a comet and land on it for analysis. It'll take Rosetta nearly 10 years to get there after a long journey through space. Preparations are nearly completed, and Rosetta's ready to be mounted on top of an Ariane 5 launch vehicle. At the present time, it's all stations go for launch on the 12th of January 2003. Now, we're on the equator on the edge of the Amazon rainforest. It's a hot and sweaty place, and this is the beginning of the rainy season, but at the present time we have a green panel for the weather.
Yes, indeed. The beginning of that small rainy season is a quiet period as far as the weather is concerned. We have a very quiet weather forecast with just some risk of wind gust and some scattered showers, as you can see here on the map. See the little dots are small clouds. That was the image taken some 5 hours, 6 hours ago before the gantry withdrawal.
So what kind of weather would we be looking out for that could prevent a launch?
The criteria would be that the wind would be too high, or the clouds would be too big and loaded with electricity, giving a lightning
À 12
risk.
DDO, attention pour le début de la séquence synchronisée lanceur. Top H0 -6 minutes.
And that was the range operations manager announcing the beginning of the synchronized sequence. This is the final 6 minutes of the countdown. It's the point at which computers take on the job of making the final checks. A red during this time, during the count, would mean resetting the count. What's actually happening? What's actually being synchronized?
In fact, the two computers are synchronized one with the other. One is taking care of the fluids and mechanical activities on the launcher and the ground installations of the launch pad, and the other one is taking care of the electric systems on the launcher and the ground installations. So it's a quite intense series of activities, switching the launch vehicle from its present ground configuration to be totally ready for the launch itself.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Jean-Michel. We're looking at pictures from about 5.5 hours ago. Withdrawal of the gantry, that's that huge structure which protects the launcher before launch during the last couple of weeks. What kind of functions does it have?
Yeah, first, as you say, it protects the launcher, but also it gives access to different levels to which we need to have our operators working, and it has to be removed at the last possible moment to fuel the upper stage.
A very delicate process, moving it millimetre by millimetre. inevitably because it's so heavy, but also because it contains such vast amounts of equipment. Now, you were talking about filling the upper stage, and that's cryotechnic fuel, liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, stored at extremely low temperatures.
Yes, indeed, and they have a tendency to evaporate as soon as you put them in a tank. So this is why we have to remove the tower to avoid any accumulation of hydrogen under the tower that could become explosive. Here we just remove the hydrogen and we burn it outside.
Now, what we're looking at here are the known as the cryotechnic arms, or the cryo arms, and those are pumping the liquid hydrogen and oxygen into the upper stage.
Yes, indeed. This is the link between the ground installation, the ground tanks, and the upper stage. And through these arms, hydrogen and oxygen are pumped into the tank, and the gas are pumped out of the tank. And they allow to keep a very close control of the exact level we need to have in the third stage to be ready for liftoff.
And as you were saying earlier, that fuel has to be topped up literally until 5 seconds before liftoff. And you were giving me an interesting example of the champagne earlier.
Yes, indeed. It looks like filling a red hot tin box with champagne, so it's a quite delicate operation. And here we have progressed in the synchronized sequence. We have switched the liquid hydrogen tank to flight pressurization, and things are proceeding normally. Next step, we'll do the same on the oxygen tank. And then the sequence will involve switching the launch vehicle from external power to internal power. The spacecraft on its side has done that already and has confirmed everything was okay. So it is sitting here relying on its own batteries.
And waiting. Now, what are these people doing who we're looking at here?
In fact, the teams here are receiving regular reports from their own teams that the procedures are moving along as planned, and they are waiting and they are all ready to make a quick real-time decision should need arise.
And there's Jean-Yves Le Gall. Now we're coming up very closely now to the last minute of the synchronized sequence. Just run through quickly for us some of the things that we'll be seeing.
Yeah, for those not used to the Ariane 4 flight, what you will see as a major movement is that 5 seconds before ignition, you will see the 2 cryotechnic arms we were mentioning before being swung open. And then at 0, the engine will be ignited, and these 8 engines at the base of the launcher will be checked until the order of liftoff is given to release the vehicle and allowing it to fly.
So, as you said, there's that 4-second delay between the initial burn and the actual liftoff. So, if you haven't seen a launch before, that's what the delay is for. Computers are checking that all those engines have been properly lit. Now, let's just remind you all who's watching us tonight, people in The Hague, Washington, Singapore, Tokyo, London, Johannesburg, Delhi, Jerusalem, Hong Kong, and
Attention
Beijing.
pour moins 1 minute. Top H0 moins 1 minute.
Welcome if you've just joined us for the launch of the NSS 6 spacecraft on this Ariane 4. We're now in the last minute of the countdown, so our very best wishes to everybody who's been involved in today's launch, the folk at New Skies, everybody at Lockheed, and indeed all the teams across the world, as well as the people who've worked so hard to prepare here at the space base. Here we go now for Flight 156, the 12th launch this year for Arianespace.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage. Les paramètres de bord au décollage sont normaux.
fantastic pictures there. That's the initial 16-second vertical ascent, Jean-Michel.
Yes, indeed, we have the first report of the flight functioning of the Ariane launch vehicle, and it's already 5 kilometers high and flying normally on its 8 Viking engine. Thrust is quite important at that time. It's 560 ton of thrust, pushing the vehicle upward and now slightly to the east.
As you said, we're burning 4 boosters, 4 Vulcan engines, so we have 8 engines in total, and we're burning about, 2 tons of fuel per second. We're actually just receiving the sound now of the launcher. We're 15 kilometers from the launch site. Can you explain this phenomenon for us, Jean-Michel?
Yeah, indeed. The sound is only traveling 300 meters per second, so it has to... it takes this time for the sound of the launch pad 15 kilometers away to arrive here in Jupiter. So we are already flying at 22 kilometers altitude and nearly 1 kilometer per second. So flight is proceeding normally. We received the regular report coming through the launch vehicle telemetry, decoded by our engineers here, and being reported by the range operation managers to his system and the downrange stations.
We're hearing that parameters are normal. We're very lucky because we're getting some fantastic pictures here tonight, and we've had extinction
of the liquid strap-on boosters.
And you can see those shards of light, I believe. There we go.
Oh, gee.
We can see those boosters separating.
Yeah, in fact, what we have seen are the ignition of the small separation rockets, which push these 4 liquid strap-on boosters away from the main central stage that has to continue burning for at least 1 minute. And they will splash down in the Atlantic some 250 kilometers away from the pad.
So at this present time, we're burning just the first stage now with its 4 engines, and that should burn for another 30 seconds or so.
Yes, indeed, but that still gives a pretty decent thrust of 280 tons, burning 1 ton of fuel each second.
So let's just compare that. We had the original thrust of 560 tons. We've reduced now to, what, half?
Just half.
280 tons.
And we're already approaching the 80 kilometers altitude, and the speed has increased to nearly 3 kilometers per second.
We've had extinction
burnout of the first stage, separation of first stage, ignition of second stage.
So we're now burning the second stage of the vehicle. 70 tons of thrust.
On the animation, we have a pyrotechnic separation from the spent first stage. It has burned all its fuel, so it has to be jettisoned. It's empty, and then we ignite the second stage, which will start its work now.
And this second stage burns for, you said, about 2.25 minutes.
Yes, indeed, and its thrust is 1 Viking engine, pushing 70 tons, burning 250 kilograms per second, which is also quite impressive.
Now we can now say that we're technically in space. We're looking at pictures here of the jettisoning of the fairing. The reason being that we no longer need the fairing anymore because we're out of the thicker layer of the atmosphere and indeed no longer have the friction.
Yes, indeed, and we are receiving a report that the flight is proceeding exactly on the mark. All parameters are nominal, as we say in our jargon, and flight is proceeding exactly as per the plan.
And here we're looking at Pierre Moskva.
Pierre Moskva, the head of the Arianespace Center.
Now, what's happening to the satellite at the moment, or what's been happening to the satellite?
The satellite is just sitting on the launch vehicle, seatbelt fastened, and waiting to be pushed to its geotransfer orbit as per the plan. And Mr. Guy Le Guern from the ESA office is also checking and following this flight.
Now, we're losing pieces of the launch vehicle as we go here, which means that we're gaining in speed.
Yes, indeed. See, the speed is already 5.5 kilometers per second.
And we're getting information of separation of the second stage.
ignition of the third stage, which now will start its long burn of 13 minutes.
Just take a quick look at that brick effect at the top of the third stage there. We'll come back to that in just a second.
It's the thermal protection.
We're burning the third stage here. This burns for, as you said, about 13 minutes. And this takes us all the way to separation of satellites. Now we're burning 8 tons. 8 tons of thrust, so we're coming down all the time. But what's the purpose of this stage?
Yeah, this stage now has a mission to give to the spacecraft the speed that is needed before it is released. So you see we are approaching the 200 kilometers altitude and the speed is 5.5 kilometers per second. But the third stage and the spacecraft weigh only at that point only 18 tons. But when you compare that to the 486 tons at liftoff, that's quite impressive loss of mass.
That's tremendous, isn't it? Now, we were talking earlier about the cryogenic third stage here. Cryogenic fuel is, of course, as we've said, very, very, very cold hydrogen and oxygen. I think the temperatures of hydrogen, 253, minus 253, and oxygen at 193 degrees. Minus 193. Now, how do we keep them cold during the flight? We were looking earlier at that brick effect at the top. That's a sort of a thermos flask effect, isn't it?
We have a thermal flask, and also we act on the pressure of these liquid in the tank to make sure they remain in the state we want them to be and give the proper thrust.
Now, there are, of course, a whole series of other propellants that are used during the launch, and here's Luca Checchio to explain.
The thrust of a launcher results from the expulsion of gases via the engine's nozzle at a very high speed. These gases are the result of the combustion of fuels or propellants carried by the launcher. The Ariane family uses different types of propellants, storable propellants, which are liquid at room temperatures, such as NTO and hydrogen derivatives, but we also use cryotechnic propellants, such as liquid oxygen or liquid hydrogen. Also available is the latest type of propellant, the solid propellant. The mass of a launcher is of about 480 tons for an Ariane 4 to 780 tons for an Ariane 5. The role of the first stage engine is to provide sufficient thrust to hold the launcher from gravity. This is achieved thanks to storable propellant engines on Ariane 4 and to solid propellant boosters on Ariane 5. Once all the propellants of the first stage have been exhausted, the launcher has lost most of its initial weight. The role of the other stages consists in increasing the speed of the launcher to ensure the spacecraft is put on orbit. These stages are propelled either by storable propellants, and that's the case of the second stage of the Ariane 4, or by cryotechnic propellants, as is the case with the third stage of the Ariane 4, or of the main and secondary cryo stages of Ariane 5. This type of propulsion is less powerful than that of the first stage, but lasts much longer.
So we know there are different fuels, but there are also, of course, different stages and a whole set of very complex systems. This is high technology kit. So how do we actually know that all those systems are functioning properly?
We listen to the telemetry that is beamed down from the launch vehicle itself to the ground, and we have in the earlier phase of the flight, as you have seen, optical systems and also external systems like radars, who give us a lot of data that that allow us in real time to know where it is, like right now on the left side of the screen, the curve, and knowing that the thrust is normal, the guidance is normal and proceeding normally, and also, and at most, after launch to make sure that the flight has presented no hidden problem.
And as you said, at this point in the flight, now all eyes are on that trajectory on the left-hand side of the screen, whereas before it was the status panels. Here are some of those pictures you were talking about.
Yes, indeed. These are the technical images taken by the high-speed camera We see the thermal projection of the second stage being jettisoned, these very light polystyrene panels getting away from around the launch vehicle. And also all the technical functioning of all the umbilicals that were linking the launch vehicle to the ground, and the way they are jettisoned and trapped along the mast, that allow us to make sure that all these systems have functioned normally and they do not present a risk for the launch vehicles. So it allows us afterwards to maintain the reliability at the level we want it to remain.
Now, you were talking earlier about telemetry. That's the method by which we receive information from the launch vehicle. And we do it using the ground stations. We have ground stations at Kourou, Natal, Ascension, which is the island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and Libreville, which is on the west coast of Africa. And they're effectively like great big ears listening to the vehicle as it flies over. What kind of information are we tracking there, Jean-Michel?
Yes, we said before, all the pressures and the parameters of the launch vehicle, like temperatures of its different system and the electrical functioning of its different systems,
and how do we
beamed down to the ground through big antennas. Like we just received the word that the Ascension Island in the middle of the Atlantic has received the first signal coming down from Ariane. After that, Kourou has lost it, Natal got it, and now it's the turn of Ascension to listen to Ariane.
Now, nearly 13 minutes into the flight, our mission is to start NSS 6 on its journey.
Yes, indeed, once we have finished our mission, it's only the beginning of life for NSS, and their first operation as soon as tomorrow will be to start regularly increasing the altitude to get to finally the geostationary orbit over the Indian Ocean, to allow the spacecraft to work and beam its programs to the customer on the ground.
And indeed, the man in charge of the satellite team for New Skies is Doug Connolly. This is the second time that we've launched for New Skies. Let's hear from him.
NSS 6, of course, is being launched on an Ariane 4, and a launch is never an easy thing to accomplish. There are a lot of difficult operations and a lot of planning and careful execution of everything involved, but because this is the 115th Ariane 4, and because Lockheed Martin has launched 25 payloads on Ariane 4, all of these years of experience make it look easier than it really is. Of course, it helps tremendously when you run a launch campaign to have world-class facilities, and the facilities here at CSG are really the best in the world. I can say that with a lot of confidence, and having been all around the world and conducted launches all around, and these are really unsurpassed. Of course, the facilities don't get the job done by themselves. There are hundreds of people who support and assist in executing the launch campaign. These are people from Arianespace and CSG and all of their subcontractors. I sometimes stop and think about it, and I'm just amazed that with all of the help that we have and the experience, that they're able to take a very high technology spacecraft, a very high technology launch vehicle, process them and prepare them for launch here in the Amazon rainforest.
5 degrees north, indeed, of the equator. New Skies was born in 1998. Since then, it's gone from strength to strength. It's one of the 4 truly global satellite operators, with 5 spacecraft already orbiting the Earth.
Located in The Hague, the Netherlands, New Skies Satellites is one of the world's 4 global satellites communications companies. In April 2002, New Skies launched the Netherlands' first commercial communication satellite on an Ariane rocket from French Guiana. The company controls its entire satellite fleet from the state-of-the-art payload and satellite operations centers located in The Hague. New Skies provides customer support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, from its network operations center just outside Washington, D.C. The launch of New Sky's second new satellite this year, NSS 6, will significantly boost the company's coverage of the Asia-Pacific, offering video, data, voice and internet communications across a region that is home to 2/3 of the world's population. New Sky satellites, high-powered, reliable satellites offering flexible connectivities with global reach.
Here we are back in Jupiter.
And we are receiving a regular report that flight is proceeding normally, 200 kilometers altitude, 9.1 kilometers per second.
Now we're coming up, hopefully... And there we have it, acquisition of signal at Libreville on the west coast of Africa, which means it's taken us nearly 18 minutes to cross the Atlantic Ocean, take us 6 hours in a jumbo jet. Now we're coming up to the final minute of the burn. The onboard computer is controlling things here, Jean-Michel. What's its job?
In fact, the onboard computer is one of the systems of the vehicle equipment bay. Certain systems like the inertial guidance tell the launch vehicle where it is. The onboard systems tell where it has to go, and control and commands the various parts and systems of the launch vehicle. And finally, the telemetry systems send back to the ground the report of how they have behaved.
We're coming up to the end.
Getting close.
Yeah, coming up to the extinction of the third stage and indeed the end of propulsion. Just to read us through what's going on the left-hand side of the screen here and keep us up to date.
We still see the curve, and we have passed the culmination and the increase of speed. Here we have it. The third stage has perfectly finished its activity and has given the correct altitude and speed. So we are now in geotransfer orbit. But the job is not over, because the attitude, the orientation of the spacecraft is not exactly what NSS needs before being separated. So we are now starting the three-phase orientation.
This is often, I think, am I right in saying this is often what's known as the space ballet, the process during which orientation and separation occurs?
Yes, indeed. We have first an orientation phase, then we have a spin-up of the system, and then we separate NSS once the correct orientation and spin speed have been acquired.
So perhaps you could put that in simple terms for us folk who are not either rocket scientists or physicists.
We are orienting the main axis of the spacecraft and rotating everything around the main axis of the spacecraft.
We'll continue to talk about that in just a second, but let's have a look at this trajectory over here on the left-hand side, because we have a dip in the trajectory before we come back up again. What's the reason for that?
Yes, indeed, because the thrust of the third stage, as we have mentioned before, is only 8 tons, but it burns very long, so we are using the gain in altitude to transform potential energy in kinetic energy. And that's the way the Ariane 4 architecture is made. And this is a very, very classical geotransfer orbit trajectory we have here, with a culmination, dip, and then increase. And here we are climbing. We are at such a high speed that now we climb from the altitude we are.
Séparation satellite NSS 6.
Yeah!
We've had separation, satellite NSS 6.
Everybody, this is a job well done. This is how we like it.
Very good.
So that is the 73rd successful Ariane 4 flight.
Now we're hearing some whoops of joy there in the Jupiter control room. Everybody looking very happy. And there's Philippe Roland, the mission director. There's Jean-Yves Le Gall, the CEO of Arianespace.
Job well done. Now the people will maybe don the mission T-shirt. Some people do that.
Exchanging T-shirts a little bit like in a football match. We're used to that in Britain. While we're waiting, we're going to be having some speeches in a minute, and indeed, hopefully, we'll have a replay of the launch as well, so you can have another look at that. While we're waiting for this, Jean-Michel, let's just talk a little bit about the satellite, because, of course, it is just at the beginning of its journey. The job's done for Arianespace. We've put it into its geo-transfer orbit.
Yes, indeed. This is where the job is really like in a relay team. We have done our part. Now it's really to Lockheed Martin commercial satellite systems team and New Skies team to play, because for us it looks we are nearly at the end of our activity. We are just making the avoidance maneuvers and soon the Ariane 4 mission will be over, but for them it's like a birth, and it's the beginning of their activity that will start very, very soon. I was told earlier that it could start as early as tomorrow to start raising the perigee.
Perigee is indeed
the lower part of the orbit. Presently the satellite is turning from very high 36,000 kilometers of the Earth, and it goes down to 200 kilometers and then climbs again to 36,000.
So the perigee is the closest point to the Earth during this orbit, and the apogee is the furthest
and so
point.
the trick is to fire the satellite engine when you're at the highest point to give it more speed and raise progressively that low point, 200 kilometers, to the same.
Let's take a look at this.
Les paramètres de bord au décollage sont normaux. Pilotage normal.
And that was a very lovely launch. We were lucky not to have too many clouds. We were talking earlier about what happens to the spacecraft now. There's some happy faces there. Doug Conley looking obviously very, very pleased. One of the things that the spacecraft does once it reaches orbit is dances the Macarena. The Macarena.
Yeah, they say that because the way the antenna are unfold from the side of the spacecraft looks like.
Let's listen to Jean-Yves Le Gall.
Right, so good evening. Quite fortunately, all evenings don't look alike. After the events which we experienced here last Wednesday, the success of tonight is obviously a great satisfaction to all of you, to all of us. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Dan Goldberg, CEO of New Skies, for the trust he always placed in us. I spoke to Mr. Goldberg on the morning following Flight 157, and he told me very clearly that he wanted to maintain tonight's flight. Well, congratulations, Mr. Goldberg, for your decision. You trusted us. You were right to do so. You enabled us to enjoy renewed success very quickly. Thank you. NSS 6 will enable your company to broaden the range of services. Before tonight's launch, New Skies was one of the most impressive successes over the last years, and it will be even more so in the future after this perfect launch. And I think we need to thank all people in your company and all your partners, more specifically the Lockheed Martin company which built the satellite. Coming back to Ariane 5, and in agreement with the European Space Agency and CNES, Arianespace has set up an independent inquiry board on the morning following Flight 157. This board is headed by Professor Koschel and has two objectives. Firstly, it will confirm that Flight 158, aiming at launching the Comet probe Rosetta shall not be affected by what happened on Flight 157. Then they will determine the reasons for the anomaly we experienced on Flight 157 so that we can resume launches with the 10-ton Ariane 5 version as soon as possible. As I said it here already, Wednesday's failure is a serious one, yet tonight's success clearly shows that it was only an unfortunate occurrence. And I can assure you that everything, absolutely everything, has been implemented already so that the next 10-ton Ariane 5 flight is a success. Until then, we shall continue to serve our clients with the generic Ariane 5. In conclusion, I would also like to thank all technical teams of all partners within the Arianespace program, both in Europe and Guyana, for this perfect launch. I wanted to thank Mr. Goldberg, but I'm now handing the floor to Mr. Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jean-Yves. It was indeed a perfect launch, one that we're deeply, deeply appreciative of. And Jean-Yves is right. He and I spoke last week. Jean-Yves called to say that they had the issue last week, and were we ready to go forward? And we said, without hesitation, absolutely yes. We have absolute confidence in Arianespace. We're delighted to be able to have given them the opportunity to have a successful launch so quickly after last week. And we were, again, 100% confident that they would take that opportunity and have this tremendous success, and we're very appreciative of that. We're also very appreciative that we were here just almost exactly 8 months ago with another flawless launch with Arianespace and with our good partners Lockheed Martin. And these successes are no accident at all. They're the result of a tremendous amount of work from a broad range of very talented, very dedicated people. And I'd like to thank some of them tonight. Firstly, I'd like to say to the New Skies team around the world, in The Hague, in Washington, in Singapore, in Australia, all over the world. Well done. Nice job. We've been working enormously hard, and it really pays off with events like this. But I'd also like to thank the New Skies family more generally, and by that I really mean our families, who have also been incredibly supportive of us over the last 4 years, having worked very hard. My wife included, who's 8 months pregnant right now and who's been incredibly tolerant of an enormous amount of traveling that I've been doing. And the New Skies family extends also to the third parties that work with us. So our bankers, our lawyers, the technical consultants, people like Vern, who have helped us again and again with these launches. So in any event, this event tonight is a wonderful capstone for what has been a very good year for us and poises us very, very well to have a very strong 2003. So to the New Skies family, I congratulate you all. And then, of course, to Arianespace, 73 consecutive launches is an amazing commercial and technical accomplishment, and one that, again, is only the result of the fact that they are still today the foremost launch services provider in the world. I have no doubt in my mind that we will, in the next couple of years, be celebrating the 73rd consecutive launch of Ariane 5, and I certainly hope that we'll be back here to share in that, and the 74th and the 75th and so on. So we're very pleased to be working with you guys again today, and we will be back. And of course, Lockheed Martin, we saw in the broadcast earlier a little bit about the NSS 6 satellite. It is a state-of-the-art satellite. It is going to be the best satellite serving the Asian region. Almost all of our satellites have been built by Lockheed Martin. As a result, we have perhaps the highest reliability rate in the industry, and we're deeply indebted to them, and we will be back working with them too. So in any event, with that, I will say thank you very much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to New Skies guests who joined us in Kourou. This is a great event, and I hope that everybody celebrates tonight, because we'll certainly be celebrating here. So thank you very much. Thank you, Jean-Yves.
Good evening. On behalf of Lockheed Martin, again, I would like to thank Jean-Yves for a wonderful flight tonight. There's not a lot more to say. I think Mr. Legal and Mr. Goldberg said it all. We feel fortunate at Lockheed Martin to be associated with both New Skies and with Arianespace. This has been our third successful launch at the Space Center here in Kourou this year, and we're very happy for that. I think I applaud Arianespace on their resilience and on their focus and their ability to pull this successful launch off with all these other activities on their plate. I second Mr. Goldberg's comments that from a satellite manufacturers community, I think I speak for them in saying that we all believe that Arianespace will prevail, will continue to be one of the premier satellite launch providers in the world going forward. I think this event tonight also sends a message, sends a strong signal to the global community regarding satellite communications. We have just many, many talented people at all levels in the launch community, in the operator community, in the manufacturing community. And I think this is a message that we are a resilient industry. We will prevail, and satellite communications is here to stay and here to grow in the future. I would say that at Lockheed Martin, our definition of mission success, though, does not, with all due respect, stop here tonight. We know and acknowledge with our partners, New Skies, that we have a few weeks ahead of us of a lot of hard work, and our mission success is only that which enables success of New Skies and the ability to provide perfect communications capability to their customers, the end user who is really the benefactor of this launch tonight. So we're committed to the next few weeks, Mr. Goldberg. And again, we're a pleasure to be here tonight, and congratulations, Arianespace, for a great first step.
Well, thank you very much. Well, before I see you again on the 12th of January for the launch of Rosetta, and see you again, Mr. Goldberg, in a very near future, flying with us again, I'd like to say that, yeah, 2002 has been a year of records for Arianespace because we launched 12 spacecrafts, and we have this video to pay tribute to all the people who worked hard on all these launches. Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Allumage.
Well, that was a very beautiful launch, and I think there are going to be a few parties around the world tonight. It's been a busy year, as we've said here at Arianespace, and as we come up to Christmas, I hope everyone has a nice time. A very goodbye from Jean-Michel and I.
Yes, goodbye everybody, and a Merry Christmas.